Hi, I'm Samantha. It's 2024, and I am a lifetime Nazarite since I took that vow 3 years ago. So it seems like it's a good time now to just put it out there and explain what is a Nazarite? Where does the term come from? How do you end up being a Nazarite? And what is it like to live as a Nazarite in 2024? So let's start with the term Nazarite. So as I've maybe shared with people before, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, a community that I left in 2020 because I felt very clearly that the Lord was showing me that I should leave for a number of reasons. But as a witness, I did read the Bible, or at least the version they have. So I knew about Nazarites. So it was to my surprise, about 6 months after leaving witnesses, maybe a bit before even, the Lord started to take me to a book in the Bible, Numbers chapter 6, which talks about Nazarites. Now, I kind of vaguely knew what they are. I did have the basics, but I kept being taken to this passage. And just for the record, the last time I had alcohol was Christmas 2020, when I had a few cocktails to celebrate. It became very clear that alcohol was something that was going to be no longer part of my life. It had previously played a role because that's one of the few things witnesses are allowed to do is drink. So it had at times been a bit of a coping mechanism. And I'd also seen really the negative side of it through someone close to me being an alcoholic. So that's a little bit of more background for me. But in Numbers chapter 6, it explains what a Nazarite is. So a Nazarite vow was something that the Israelites, the Jews, could take, either men or women, and it would be a vow that they would be set apart for the Lord for a specific time. Now, later in the Bible, the characters we come across that were Nazarites were actually Nazarites from birth. So that is very much a thing spiritually as well. But for those taking the vow as an adult, what does it mean? It means no longer cutting your hair. So having long hair is often a very obvious mark of somebody who's a Nazarite. There's also the fact that you're meant to stay away from alcohol and any product of the vine. So you wouldn't drink any spirits, alcoholic drinks, beer, and you would stay away from wine, but you would also stay away from grapes. So you wouldn't eat grapes, you wouldn't drink grape juice, you wouldn't have balsamic vinegar or red or white wine vinegar, and you also would stay away from raisins, which was maybe the toughest one for me because I used to love chocolate covered raisins. They were always my favorite, but I've managed without. And then maybe finally, the perhaps more unusual requirement is that you cannot touch a dead body and you have to stay away from death and dead bodies. I haven't yet had to sort of explore whether I could attend a funeral, but I suspect that if I prayerfully ask for guidance on that, it would be a no for me because of the Nazarite vow that I have taken. So you would stay away from death. I definitely cannot now be a coroner or a pathologist. So a couple of career options out of the way as well with that one. And also it wouldn't kind of make sense for me to have a vineyard. So my dreams of a chateau in France with a beautiful vineyard, well, I could have one, but I'd have to just keep blessing everybody else with the products and I wouldn't be able to taste them either. So going back to the sort of biblical Nazarites, the most famous one is probably Samson. And if you remember with him, not only was he a Nazarite from birth, so the Bible tells you quite specifically that his mom had to stay away from alcohol and grapes the whole gestation, and the child was a Nazarite, so he didn't have his hair cut. And of course, disastrously, when he was betrayed and his hair was cut, he lost the special anointing that came with his Nazarite vow and being a Nazarite from birth. Now, the others that are mentioned in the Bible are the prophet Samuel, again from birth. His mum was told to not cut his hair. And the other one, again, John the Baptist, another one from birth. his hair was not cut. So each of them had a really powerful calling. When I was first taken to this passage over and over again, I kept reading it and I was like, why does the Lord keep taking me to read about Nazarites? Isn't that like an ancient sort of Jewish thing? Isn't it to do with the law? Well, yes, it was established there and clarified as to what this vow is, but it is still alive and well today. So you can choose to take a Nazarite vow, for example, for a period of time. In my case, I got very clear direction that I should take that vow. And when I prayed and asked and said to the Lord, how long is this Nazarite vow for? And this is the scripture that I kept being given. It was this verse in Matthew 26 where Jesus says, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. So I knew from that point onwards that once I took that vow, it would be lifelong. So for the rest of my life, there'll be no chocolate raisins, there'll be no champers or gin tonic cocktails. Thankfully, I already had plenty. And there's also just that reminder that I am set apart, I am separated for the calling that the Lord has for me. It is linked to a prophetic calling, one that will become more evident as time goes on, and I will share more about the specifics. Now, I would love to know if there's anyone else out there who's been asked to take this particular vow and how that's, impacting them. In my case, what's really interesting is that there seems to have been a physiological change that followed taking that vow. So, for example, I was having lunch with a friend and she gave me a fruit juice. And for the life of me, I couldn't get this thing down me. It tasted awful to me. It tasted really nasty. So in the end, after a few sips and just kind of gagging on it, I said to her, what is in that juice? She took the packet out, read it, and she said, oh, I'm so sorry, it's got grape juice. And I have also discovered the hard way that a lot of smoothies have grape juice in them. So grape juice is out, and a lot of smoothies, I have to check the packaging now. I have also been given non-alcoholic drinks that still have a tiniest percentage of alcohol, less than 1%. Again, I can't drink them. I feel incredibly sick, even sipping them. And often I just haven't known. I've had to kind of go and check the packet. And then I'm like, okay, this is why. Another challenge that I face as a Nazarite in the modern day is, funnily enough, Christmas and Easter, because a lot of the yummy foods are based on grapes. So I can't have mulled wine, and I can't have, you guessed it, mince pies. I have actually had people make me raisin-free mince pies as a gift, which is really sweet. And I had a bit of a mishap one Easter because I attended like a really lovely church service, lots of churches combined. And then as a refreshment, they were giving out, of course, hot cross buns. And I was really hungry, so I took one. And I thought I was being clever. I picked out every single raisin, so I thought I had the worst bad belly afterwards. So whether I missed a raisin and ingested it, or whether there was like enough raisin juice in the dough, but I seem to not be able to tolerate alcohol, and I seem to not be able to tolerate raisins and grapes at all. So when I go into a restaurant and they ask for allergies, you guessed it, I tend to say grapes and alcohol. And you'd be surprised. I was even in a Japanese restaurant. You'd think that would be safe. No, I think they'd shoved balsamic vinegar and everything, but I had a real struggle. Even there, they ticked off a few things from the menu and I was a bit shook, but I still managed to have a really nice lunch. So it wasn't that deep. Now with the hair, when I first did the Nazarite vow, my hair was quite short, had a blonde balayage. I had to cut the blonde stuff out as quick as. I am allowed to have occasional trims of the ends. Normally it's 6 monthly or so, and that's a concession because I have a public role. So if the Lord wasn't concerned about me looking half decent, if I was up on a mountain in a cave, which I would be fine with, to be honest, you lot stress me out sometimes, I would be happy to do that, but then I probably wouldn't be having any hair trims either. So that I'm quite happy about, because it keeps my hair healthier, but it will progressively get longer, because it is a very deeply spiritual thing. There's a lot of spiritual things attached to your hair. The Bible talks about your hair being like your glory. I'm still learning about the significance of the hair, but I can tell you this: my hair is incredibly sensitive. It seems to change color according to season and what's going on around me. My scalp and my hair is very, very sensitive. I do not like it being touched. So if you ever want to touch my hair, ask me first. Do not, even when it gets longer, do not please touch it unless you ask permission first. It's a very personal thing. And I think those are the main points, really. I don't tend to explain this to people. I've gotten around the alcohol grapes thing by either saying it's an allergy or a choice. It's a bit of both by now. I have no problem with giving those things up for the rest of my life. The Lord has taken me on an incredible journey. I'm still on that journey. I'm at the start of it. This is a small price to pay, if I'm honest. It's a small price to pay. I would love to know if there's others out there who the Lord has asked to take the Nazarite vow, and also how you're dealing with it, and just to kind of share experiences. Do read Numbers chapter 6. If you read the passages around the birth, especially of Samson and Prophet Samuel and John the Baptist, you will see there's mentions of the not cutting of the hair, the fact that they're Nazarites. It is in the Bible. It is a biblical thing. And I guess, if we were to question, is it relevant to Christians? Well, John the Baptist, he lived in Jesus' day. Jesus didn't say, now that I've appeared, you can forget about being a Nazarite. As much as John didn't live very long after baptizing Jesus, he did remain a Nazarite to his dying moment. And it is still a thing. So if you want, ask me more questions. If you have any exciting insight into what a Nazarite is and a Nazarite vow, any historical stuff, I'm always interested in learning more. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm so sorry for that noise, if you can hear it. My dog started to make some sort of nest for herself. I think, to be honest, because she's disrupted my video, you're going to meet her. Millie. So here, this is my senior dog, Millie. Millie, you're getting to be on YouTube and on the so wave. Millie is naturally short-haired, so she's not in danger of becoming a Nazarite. Although you shouldn't give dogs grapes or alcohol. So as a dog owner, it doesn't really impact my pets, other than the fact that I probably shed more hair than my two dogs put together.